Hello from Tokyo and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera, where today we're going to be taking a look at a 1950s Aries 35 3C rangefinder camera. If you are interested in purchasing an Aries 35 3C, I sell these in my eBay and Etsy stores. You can find links to my stores in the description below. So let's go ahead and take a look at this camera. So the Aries 35 3C was produced in the 1950s for the Japanese domestic market. In the 1950s, Japan's economy was beginning to grow, but it wasn't that rich yet. And most Japanese could not afford a real Leica or Contax camera. So there was a pretty strong market for cameras which resembled a Leica or a Contax. And Aries was one of the companies which came up with a pretty good copy. So as you can see, the shape of the camera is very much like a Leica M3 with the rounded edges, a similar release knob, and just like the Leica M3, to change the film you have to remove the bottom cover and open the film door. But the Aries is superior to the Leica in one way, in that it has a full-size film door instead of the small door which comes in the middle of a Leica M. It makes it a lot easier to load and unload in Aries than a Leica. And also, you don't need an extra film spool. Another interesting similarity to the Leica M3 is the viewfinder. Aries actually went to a lot of trouble to put in a very nice viewfinder in these cameras with an excellent copy of the Leica M3 frame lines. The finder is not as bright as a Leica M3, and the rangefinder is of course not as crisp, but among the rangefinder cameras of the 1950s, the Aries 3C is, it's got its head above the rest. It's really nice and quite easy to use. It's very bright, it offers parallax correction, and it's actually surprisingly usable in places where there isn't much light. I really love the viewfinder in these cameras. If we take a look at the top of the camera here, it has an interesting shutter button. It has like a soft release button permanently affixed, and then here's where you would attach the cable release if you were using a shutter release cable. Unlike the earlier Leica M3s, the Aries 35 3C has a single stroke winding. The focus on these is quite smooth. And it also has an interesting feature for taking multiple exposures. So if you pull the lever to the right, that releases the film spool, allowing you to rewind the film. And if you turn it to the left, you can cock the shutter without winding the film spool, which allows you to take a double exposure. The Aries 35 3C was available with two different lenses. The first was a 45mm f2.4 lens, which this camera is fitted with, and the 45mm f1.9 lens. Both lenses are excellent. The f2.4 lens is actually the rarer of the two. The 1.9 lens was more popular. There wasn't much of a difference in the retail price of the cameras, so it was just going to be a few extra yen. People went for the faster lens. The Aries also features a mechanical copal shutter, which is quite reliable and luckily easy to service. You don't need to send this camera to any crazy place. You're a specialized repair person to get it done. The copal shutter is the easiest of leaf shutters to service. If you look at the lens barrel, the ring closest to the end is the one you turn to adjust the aperture, and then there's a ring further on the inside which you use to set the shutter speed. It's easy to set these independently, or you can turn them together and use the EV numbers, which are marked in red. The Aries 3C is a remarkable camera, and I don't really see a lot of these. It's hard to find them in good shape. They weren't produced in very large numbers compared to other cameras, and not many of them were exported from Japan. Most of the ones you find in America or Europe were actually bought by US servicemen, and they were brought home. And most of them were marked with red EP mark on the screw on the top of the winding lever, but some were not. So, once again, if you're interested in one of these cameras, I usually have these available for sale in one of my stores. And if I don't have any on hand at the moment, I usually come across at least 2 or 3 of these a month. And so keep your eyes open. If you have any questions about the Aries 3C or want to make any comments about them, feel free to do so. And I'll be posting more videos about more cameras in the future. If you want to see them, please come back. Thanks a lot for watching, and have a great day.